What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So, you want to change. Do you really want to change? Well, in today's video, we're going to cover a few various topics on certain strategies that you may or may not be able to implement in your own life that can help you make lasting change for the better, right? Obviously, we all have certain things that we want to strive and achieve in life, whatever that is. And there's definitely a lot of science and a lot of good strategies that can help you get there, right? I would definitely say number one is setting a goal. Number two would be a habit formation, assessing your progress, and also, mentally rewarding yourself. But there's a very fine line with that because there's actually a lot of research and a lot of neuroscience coming out recently about the impacts of doing hard things. And it sounds so simple, obviously, when you're just talking about it, do hard shit, and it will get easier to do hard shit. But if you're actually talking about the little more subtle nuances of the neuroscience, you actually have this area in the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. That when you do hard things that you don't want to do and you do not enjoy doing them, you actually grow this area of your brain, especially when you're continuing this behavior over time. And there's also a difference, right? Because if you start off not liking something and then you do it and you actually end up liking or enjoying that activity, you will actually lose the benefits of growing this area of your brain. And this area is directly impacted with willpower, right? Motivation. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that dictate motivation, like your dopaminergic response to certain activities. And obviously, in today's day and age, we're so bombarded by dopamine release, right? Social media, porn, substances, nicotine, pot, alcohol, all these types of different activities that could be straining your dopaminergic drive. And obviously, doing things you enjoy doing all the time, every day, day in and day out, clearly is not good for your motivation and discipline and self-psyche and long-term impacts, right? I mean, pretty much everybody knows that. It's common sense, right? So definitely don't do that. Sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do in life, and when you continuously stack those, you are laying the foundational bricks for your future success. A lot of people get really caught up with all this stuff about, whatever external things are going on. You always hear a lot of people talking about changing the world and da-da-da, this and that. But a lot of people don't like to take the time to sit down and do a little bit of self-reflection, because at the end of the day, this kind of goes with, some messaging of Gandhi and some other people, but be the change you want to see in the world, right? That's like a super famous Gandhi quote. Basically, the fastest way to change the world is to change yourself. And then obviously, if you're being successful and you're, striving and succeeding and hitting your goals, it's just gonna rub off on people, right? There's like a contagion effect that it has. But the art of change, right? Because it's a lot easier said than done. You can watch, I don't know, 100 videos a day on self-improvement, motivation, discipline, blah, blah, blah. And you're still not gonna do it, right? I mean, we've all been there, indulging in self-help, videos on the internet, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, why aren't you actually making a change in your life? And a lot of this goes back to your own mental preconceived psychology on how you're dealing with these things, because you may say you want to do something, but ask yourself, how bad do you actually want it, right? Because if you want it bad enough, you're going to do it, right? But this also goes back to doing the hard things you don't want to do, because most likely whatever aspiration that you have, it is going to require some hard work, some uncomfortableness, right? You cannot always just be comfortable. You have to step outside of that and really put your own mental in a challenging, uncomfortable position so that you're actually growing that anterior midcingulate cortex in your brain. You're flexing that discipline muscle, right? You're developing a habit, right? There's a huge myth that you can build a habit in 21 days. Obviously, when you look into the research, it can be as short as 18 days, and it can take up to like 240 days for some people. But the average was like 66 days or something to develop a habit. Now, obviously, some people have good habits and some people have bad habits. The key is to get more good habits, right? Even some super duper successful people, right? Like a good example is like Warren Buffett. He literally eats a McDonald's breakfast like every single day. You even see, Trump, for example, he drinks like Diet Coke like a maniac. Obviously, eating unhealthy, doing bad habits are not good for you, but even some of the most successful people do have some bad habits. Now, obviously, if you have more bad habits than good ones, it's going to be hard to achieve the goals that you're setting for yourself. And I feel like goal setting is so underrated. There's actually a very famous Yale study. I think it was done in like the 1950s, and then there was a follow-up by Harvard in the late 70s. It was something like, I don't know, 3% of people wrote down goals and had a intention and a plan set in place for those goals. Then there was like, I don't know, around 14% that just wrote down their goals, or maybe it was like 13% wrote down their goals physically. Then, the other whatever percent, what was a majority, did not write their goals down at all. And then they did like a 10-year follow-up, and then surprise, surprise, what did they find out? The people who wrote down their goals were like 5 times more likely to achieve those. And then the people who wrote down the goal and had a plan and means were like 10 times more likely to fulfill those goals, right? But again, having a goal and just speaking about it is a lot different than writing it down on a piece of paper, drawing out a plan step by step, and actually logistically planning this out, right? And a lot of people don't realize how hard it actually is, right? Most resolutioners, which are, New Year's resolutioners, I think it's like 80% give up within the first week. And then subsequently, like a month later, almost all of them have given up, like 93%. So the question is how do you actually stick to that? Well, number one, going back to previously mentioned, is you need to do hard things, right? But number one, you also need to understand your intentions. What are your motivations? Why do you want this goal? Is it for you? Is it for others? Is it, how you look in front of your friends, in front of your family? How bad do you really want that goal? And then what are the underlying conditions to that on why you want to get there, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have some type of internal fuel, or you're going to have to understand how you are thinking about that specific goal and then stay true to the course, right? A really good way to kind of help facilitate that as well is to set a time frame, right? Like let's say 30 days, right? Like, hey, I want to start to get in shape. Okay. I'm going to start doing a habit for 30 days. Can I do it? Okay. Let's say you do it. Let's reassess after 30 days. That's another important aspect, is once you get there, you need to reassess and reevaluate and, further inch up your goal. Sometimes we're kind of like goal hungry, and the second that you meet a goal, you're like instantly just not satisfied, right? Like it feels good maybe for a day, and the next thing you know, you're like already setting a new goal. Try not to do that too much, because you can get in this kind of like negative behavior where you're basically never ever satisfied. And obviously there's pros and cons to that, right? Some super hyper successful people, they're just like goal hungry and they're never happy, right? They think that when they get their goal, that's going to make them happy. But at the end of the day, it's not, right? It's if anything, it's going to exacerbate whatever's going on for you, right? So if you're already a very happy person, and you're thinking, oh, I need to do this for my family or something, and then you finally hit that, it's not going to really give you that like deep down fulfillment, right? If you're already like a depressed person, it's not going to make you happy, right? So you really need to understand the underlying motivations of why do you actually want to get there, and what fulfillment are you actually getting out of that by getting to that goal, right? And I call it the art of change because change is very hard. People don't want to change. It's hard to change, right? It takes a lot of mental capacity to change, especially if it's something that is already ingrained in your habits, right? That's why I'm saying, like, you need to replace a good habit with a bad habit. Or sorry, other way around. You need to replace a bad habit with a good habit. But that's also easier said than done. From my own personal experience, doing things I don't want to do actually has helped me a lot, even in another area. So for example, I've been on like a recomp, and it's, certain things are a little bit tough about it, especially when you have a lot of external factors basically, screwing up your routine, right? It's really hard to stay on a routine for a very extended period of time. And I've been on this recomp for about 2 years now. But I decided to pick up reading because, I'll be honest with you guys, I fucking hate reading, like super duper bad. When I was a younger kid, I did not read a lot. Even when I was going through college, I did not read as much as I had to or needed to. I just basically did the bare minimum. And part of it is because I am a little bit dyslexic. So reading is challenging, and it's also kind of boring. So I've made it an absolute point to sit down and read at least 30 minutes a day, whether I'm doing cardio, whether it's before bed, or even early in the morning when I'm eating breakfast. It's really helped kind of push me in a different type of way, but it still translates over into my routine of what I'm doing now, right? But what do you guys think? What has helped you guys maybe implement a major change? I know that obviously goal setting is one, being disciplined, doing things you don't want to do, but also you still have to take action, right? And that's where I think a lot of people get kind of like stuck, or they're like dead in the water, right? They set a goal, they set a plan, but then that's all. That's as far as they get. They don't actually take that action, and they don't follow through, right? So what do you guys think? Do you have any suggestions? I know that those things have really helped me. And obviously, long-lasting change is probably one of the hardest things to do, but once you can kind of start to get the hang of it, you can really translate it into a lot of areas in your life, and you can replicate that framework, and sky's the limit, right?